That's also combined with a mentality that we're the only real Christians. And all those other churches out there that believe traditional things, oh, well, they're not really Christians, so we're not going to believe the same things they believe.
Why do you think it is that we could use the word cults or not? I'm going to go ahead and use it because that's what I'm thinking of in my mind. There may be other groups, or maybe they wouldn't fit the criteria for cult, or maybe it's just not useful to use that word. But whenever I am encountering someone who has made an exit out of a cult, by every definition, I'm constantly seeing that they deny the full deity of, Christ, also the Trinity as a whole. They take issue with the Trinity. Why do you think that is? Why do we see that over and over again?
Or there are some of them that deny the threeness of God and have as their official doctrine modalism, that God is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are simply three manifestations of God. So those people do believe in the deity of Jesus Christ, but somehow they believe that Jesus Christ is the Father, is the Son, and is the Holy Spirit. I grew up around those people. They were called Apostolic Pentecostal Christians, and one of their denominations is the United Pentecostal Church. Not all Pentecostals agree with that. It's a division among Pentecostals over the Trinity. So you have all these heresies still swimming around, and often in cults. Now, here we're using the word cult in a very broad sense to include theology. Whereas today, if you go out in the street and say, that church is a cult, you could get sued, because the word has become so pejorative that nobody claims that they belong to a cult. Nobody thinks they belong to a cult. And so we're using the word here, you and I, for the listeners, in a theological sense, not in the sense of stockpiling weapons or about to commit mass suicide or being dangerous to the neighbors or anything like that. We're talking about theology. And so we can't be sued because courts don't have the right to decide who's right in theology, right? So when we use the word cult, we're using it in an older sense that predates Jim Jones and Jonestown, the People's Temple, and the Branch Davidians and all of that caused the word cult to become, kind of thought of as always referring to a dangerous group. We're not talking necessarily here about dangerous groups, except in the spiritual sense.
Right.
If they're teaching error, then they're dangerous theologically and spiritually. But yeah, so I've also experienced that most organized cult groups do not believe in the Trinity. Why that is, it's hard to say, but often that's also combined with a mentality that we're the only real Christians. And all those other churches out there that believe traditional things, oh, well, they're not really Christians, so we're not going to believe the same things they believe. So I think it's more of a sociological and psychological connection as to why the Trinity is usually denied in cults that claim to be Christian. Let's be clear, we're talking about cults that claim to be Christian, not ones that are offshoots of Hinduism or Buddhism or something like that. So yes, that is very common. And I find it hard to understand too. But let me say that I do know of churches, and I think you do too, that are orthodox in their beliefs. In other words, they do believe in the deity of Jesus Christ and in the Trinity, but are cultic in the sense of being abusive to their members. The leaders may be corrupt. They may practice spiritual abuse if anyone dares to question anything. And honestly, the college I went to was a Bible college, and it was kind of like that. The doctrines were okay. I mean, there was no heresies as such, but if you dared to ask a question about why we believed something, you would get shamed for even asking. And that's to me a cultic feature.
Yes. And certainly when people come to be emboldened to share their stories and they're seeking support, this might be the first time that they're able to actually ask questions they've been denied the ability to do that in the past. And so they come with all of this doctrine they've been taught. And they now have a feeling, at least, kind of this sense of, well, this was an unhealthy situation all these other ways. So I have a feeling that some of the things I'm believing maybe in other areas could be wrong too. And so they want to start exploring. And I agree with you that I think a big connecting point is the desire, and I think the need, in order to meet the agenda and be exclusive and to be, have the us versus them. I think the group has to be different than Orthodox Christianity. And there needs to be something that's unique. Otherwise, they would blend in with the rest of us, and they don't want that to be the case.